What the fuck? 810 weeks to explain imposing risk is stupid? Yeah. So I guess we'll go back to what the fuck. So, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck. Happenings here, and I'll say the name, inmendham, but it's just a name now. It's not a direct statement of any kind, unfortunately. Sadly, really. So anyway, I'll be back. Alright, back. So this week, I hit the subject of consent, the consent argument, talked about it many times. And so it's related to a paper, scientific paper kind of thing, the CambridgeJournal.org, right? Well, Cambridge, yeah. Anyway, so prestigious name anyway. Anyway, so it's a very long article. That would be my, my first kind of a jackass complaint is that it is long. So I haven't read it all yet. So I thought that what might be interesting is that I'll, do a video before reading it and after reading it. But anyway, completely, it has lots of references to other people's arguments that have been made in the past that sort of get close, but sort of don't hit the nail exactly on the head. And, the whole argument about where the argument needs to be made, whether the intellectuals need to have the argument. I'd almost argue that if intellectuals can't already get it, they're not intellectuals. I mean, if you really don't, understand what evolution is and that evolution created us and that we are just insidious machines, really, just selfish, gluttonous, pig monsters. And it's just silly to have any other perception about what we're doing here except being selfish cunts and recklessly selfish, frankly, in that there's no way to play this game as an intelligence. If you're intelligent, you should be completely disabled at this point. I mean, if you're really intelligent, you should be disabled because there's absolutely no way to control any of it. You can't utter a word without it being dangerous. You can't say I love you to somebody because that's dangerous. You can't say I hate you to somebody because that's dangerous. You can't interact in any way, with any certainty regarding outcomes. And for anything intelligent, the game should be unplayable. I mean, there's too much at stake, and we have the steering isn't even connected to the wheels. I mean, the steering wheels, it's like moves a little wheel on the side of the car. It doesn't do any, it doesn't steer the car. There's no steering. There's no maneuvering. All you can do is lean a little bit here and there, and try to stop running over something obvious. But you can't do anything subtle. You can't pick a road. You can't do anything. So it should be unplayable by an intelligence already. So I don't even know. Frankly, making academic arguments almost seems should be a moot point, frankly, because an academic shouldn't have to have it explained to them that evolution isn't some beautiful thing, that it creates torture in grotesque amounts. I mean, you have to explain that to smart people? I mean, come on. Facepalm. I mean, what do you mean? I have to explain that to smart people? So, all right, so in a sense, and again, I could argue that, just the metaphors are, in my opinion, more powerful. Okay, the janitorial duty of just cleaning up the mess made by the procreators, trying to mitigate against the blood and the horror and the pain and the suffering that's just wasted. And the fact is we're doing so little to mitigate. Our civilizations are basically rewarding people for being assholes rather than punishing them for being assholes. It's just so bad in so many ways that how could an intellectual require somebody to make an argument that's a little pessimistic? I mean, a little bit down on the whole process and saying way too expensive for way too little. You know, going down the street singing the I'm a Pepper song just isn't worth torturing people for. And that's about all the civilization has created, is people doing singing and dancing and saying how fun it is and how marvelous it all is. And beep, 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 beep. And it's putrid compensation for the horrific experiences being paid for it. That just shouldn't be a challenging argument for a smart person. They should have no problem saying, yes, I can see that point, and yes, it's a pretty good point, you know, and yes, it's going to be really hard for me to contrive some kind of upside, you know. We're all going to the fun singularity together. Now we're not, it's not happening. I mean, this is just all too ridiculous, really, frankly. So it really is just an argument to morons. It should be. And, I mean, I guess I'm just saying, obviously the intelligences that need 5 million words to explain how life is dangerous and very problematic has to be really a pretty stupid intellectual. I mean, it's got to be really, really fucking goddamn dumb. So anyway, to the video and such. So link below to Amanda's paper, and I don't know, you know, it's a lot of argument, okay, and I think it's more than should be necessary, frankly. But anyway, we'll see if it's got, you know, we'll see what the punchline is. It's a very long, yeah, very long. That's all I'll say. It's very long. Alright, so we'll get to the video very shortly. So yes, I have changed the name back to What the Fuck, because obviously no one gives a shit that Google's evil. No one can be motivated to give a shit. Absolutely no. I mean, I don't think a single comment, frankly. So I spent a year, you know, shoving the idea in people's faces, and absolutely no motivation to do a damn thing, to organize, to do anything at all in terms of pointing out how we shouldn't allow the internet to be run by this monopoly, corporate, scummy, capitalist company that lied from the very beginning, saying it wasn't evil. Don't be evil was its slogan. And the whole plot was evil. The whole plan was to put all the other search engines out of business by giving it all away for free. That was exactly their plan, on purpose. It was William Randolph Hearst all over again in publishing. Rich people can afford to do this. They can destroy the competition and take all the territory. That's exactly what Google did. It's just goddamn evil all over the fucking place. And no one gives a shit. That's okay. We'll let it run our information highway. You know, we'll let it destroy that highway, frankly, and turn it into its own manipulatable, controllable environment to sell its products. Its approved advertisers, you know, which even goes so low as selling women, you know, from other countries. You can see the commercials on YouTube for basically, you know, you buy yourself a slave from another country, a desperate woman. Yeah, disgusting. Anyway, or you know, who knows what age they are. You know, anyway, just disgusting. But anyway, and the other subject was, you know, it's just sad that you really can't motivate people to do a damn thing. You can't inspire them. It's, you know, it's just. I mean, obviously I don't have a very broad audience, which also creates a limitation, but frankly I should see some glimmer of interest, and you can't even get a glimmer of it. So it's sort of like this politically horrible circumstance we're heading for, where if you have any kind of notion how evil Republicans are, and you're watching the Democratic Party make it impossible for them to win, you're just saying they're going to run a guy who is clearly not competent anymore, and for a 4-year term, and it's just no hope that he can make it. and the vice president thingy has no qualifications. Is, you know, might as well be just pulled off the street. It's so bad in terms of what kind of credentials it has to make any kind of decisions about anything. And you're just saying, what the fuck? They're going to do this on purpose. They're going to actually make it almost impossible for the Republicans to lose. Almost impossible. I mean, Trump was going to have to do something amazingly stupid to be any stupider than he's already been, or corrupt or evil. I mean, it's just like, I can't believe we're in this circumstance. I can't believe that people are just this fucking stupid. That all these passionate intellectuals, you know, with all their high principles and love for the you know, taking care and helping people, are going to absolutely serve them so, you know, do so just such a disservice to them by allowing this farce. They can't find a single fucking thing to run for president of the United States that isn't a brain that doesn't work at all. I mean, these brains don't work at all. We really don't we're not going to choose a brain. You know, it's I'm sorry, it's just so dismal. And people can't even get that. They can't even get that this is so far from good enough. This choice is so fucking idiotic. There's just no way we should just suspend life on Earth because this choice shouldn't happen. There should be no way that you have an election for the most powerful man, and he's not even a man. I mean, it's not functioning at all. It's not even close to being a representation of humanity anymore. I mean, there's just no point in it. This is crazy. Anyway, I mean, you can't fix that. Something this obvious, and there's nobody can fix it. The Republicans can't figure out, well, maybe we ought to get a guy who isn't just so overtly obnoxious and run that. I mean, and again, it's just amazing that the two parties are controlled by lunatics. Who but a lunatic would run these as candidates? Anyway, sorry, enough of the political crap. There's no point. There's just no point, but I have to endeavor to persevere, so I have no choice. I have to make these videos to a big pile of fucking bugs. I mean, you really are just proving you're all just so below any capacity to do anything called smart. You know, it's just, so dismal. So anyway, let's go on to the video. So it's titled something kind of boring, The Consent Argument Against Imposition. You know, I sort of get to that argument, but I mean, it takes me a while to get there. Not because it's very complicated, but because there's just so many things you can attach to it. So in terms of trying to make the argument, and again, always because you're always fighting this problem that, wow, you people are really stupid. So it's really hard to convey an idea to you because you're really fucking stupid. But anyway, a game where, in a sense, there's this randomized effect where there's little control. I think I've just made the argument there. I'm just making, so you have, you know, why are we investing in something so broken, so far from being capable of being played rationally? This is just the gladiator thing, and there aren't even rational rules to the gladiator war. You know, there's some stupid, like some bell goes off, and when the bell goes off, whoever's arm is higher than the other guy's arm, he gets killed. You know, some kind of stupid rule. I mean, the whole game is just full of nonsense. And so part of the consent argument is that word slavery. Yeah, so the idea is we all can, probably most people can agree that enslaving people for your own gain, without any idea that you're somehow being altruistic and you're improving their circumstance, would be unethical. That it's just plain wrong to compromise something else's welfare for your gain, and that no matter when you're doing that, you have to justify it by some worth equation, some higher value, that you're better, your comfort's more important than the horse's comfort, for example. But there's a ton of examples. But most people get it. I mean, at least most people can get that it's intrinsically unfavorable. And it would be much better if the thing consents to being a slave rather than is a slave. You know, they consent to be a servant rather than being forced to be a servant. Evolution. I mean, why? I mean, the fact is that I was forced here to be a servant to this idiocracy, to be a participant in this fucked up, idiotic game. Now, clearly my parents didn't know it was as fucked up as it got. I mean, the world I was born into wasn't nearly as stupid as this one, but it was, you know, it had lots of the smell of it. It smelled a lot like it. I mean, you couldn't drink the water in Lake Erie, you know, those kind of things. A byproduct of, essentially, evolution. So I do emphasize that's always the real point, is that it's evolution, and we're just a product of it. We're just one of the machines that evolution created, and yes, we have this brain thing that can do vocabulary, and we can, you know, learn, okay, to manipulate the environment. We can learn to draw the map and then be able to read the map. We can take certain advantages, but that's all they are. They're just superficial advantages, and what we're really doing is, you know, the map is always to, you know, the vagina. The map is always to the candy. You know, the map's never going anywhere truly interesting. There's no good purposes in the map. It's all just about getting your little pile of gold for you personally. It's a personal gain map. It isn't a be a productive human map. Confidence, because they think you know, they're navigating with a map written by God. There you go. So I use the map metaphor again. You know, and obviously somebody who's got, you know, who's using a map from, like, whatever they call that, ladders and bridges or whatever, some little kid game. Okay, so you got this, you know, people are living life by this silly, crude, trivial map drawn by religion. It doesn't have anything to do with real consequences, real reality. You know, torture is somehow fun. You know, it's Jesus is eating your torture, enjoying it as a meal. You know, some sort of, I mean, it's just so silly and insane, a map, that these people shouldn't be allowed to drive a car using this map, because it's not a real map. The roads aren't real, the whole thing is wrong, and they're going to just keep plowing into shit because they got a map that doesn't make any fucking goddamn sense. It has nothing to do with our reality. Dwarves are not alright, so I was just pointing out the whole Olympics argument, and, you know, nobody concedes. Consent is a tricky word, because even adults consent to things that are stupid. As our civilization has consented to use poor people, taxing poor people with lotteries as a way of financing projects, you know, projects to help the poor. So they tax the poor, that is, they collect money from the poor so they can give money to the poor. I mean, it really makes absolutely zero goddamn sense. And we do it anyway. I mean, just too silly. And, you know, it's not only just that they speed, there's 10% of that 10. Alright, so I was bragging about just an environmental circumstance, a personal environmental circumstance that I've noticed that is just more evidence of this is not a civilization. It's just completely turned to shit. And it's a minor thing. You know, I'm not talking about people, you know, breaking into your house and murdering you, but, you know, there's a threat of that. But just this casual disregard demonstrated by people for being at all civilized, you know, it's just amazing. People are animals to that kind of horror. I don't know exactly what I was saying there. Yeah, so, obviously, it's back to the evolution and this whole idea of, this is not, as a game, you're going to thrust something into, you should have to get a permit or something. And there's no way you could get a permit to make this game, to put babies or kids at this kind of risk. So if you actually had to get it approved, who would sign off on it? But an asshole who would say, "Oh, you've covered enough of the risk. You have $10 in the bank. Go ahead, have a baby." Who rational would say that's good? That's obviously a bad thing. It's obviously, if you don't have more than $10 in the bank, you shouldn't be having a kid. I mean, anybody with any kind of brain should be able to utter those words. It's the ethics of creating feeling things, are allowing a system to exist. A container, an aquarium that the little feeling things function in. Right, and just whether you sign off on it or not. Do you sign off on this filthy, dirty, stinking experiment where most of the shit dies in some miserable way and most of the shit lives kind of miserably as a wage slave or some other kind of thing, obese and disabled and dysfunctional, and what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? Signing off on this ugly, disgusting, putrefied tank of shit. And to participate. It's as if it's a big difference than, you could do the thought experiment with the trolley thing, and you could start playing a game with. Alright, so I was just trying to modify some different thought experiments, and I did come up with a couple in this video. Yeah, where you just change the scenario a little bit, and then it makes it easier to push the fat guy, because you can make him into a bad guy, and you can make the victims into more perfect, less flawed, less potentially flawed characters, like they're not child molesters or some other kind of thing. So you can make it really easy to make the decision, and especially if you have consent, in some sense, for the player that you're going to be imposing the worst risk on. If that guy showed up and said, "I'll volunteer to be standing on the bridge," makes it a lot easier to push him off. Would you wake it up today? Would you wait a week or two? I mean, alright, so that was one I came up with, was a sleeping beauty metaphor. Just, you have somebody who's asleep, and now you're going to decide when to wake them up. Do you wake them up this week or next month? Do you wait until global warming's already done its thing? I mean, you can wake them up any time. So when do you wait? Do you wait? I mean, obviously going back in history, it'd be kind of dicey to, if you could wake somebody up at any period in time. You could go back in time. Would you wake somebody up 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, or 1,000 years ago? I make the point before, morphine certainly should be out of the question. I mean, I wouldn't wake somebody up before morphine. So obviously there's this tendency to say, shit, why would I wake somebody up now? If I wait 100 years, maybe things will get a lot better. So, I mean, it just adds another element to this idea of, do the procreators really think they're doing something a favor by waking people up now? At this moment in time, it's not even, there's nothing good on the wall. I mean, every indication is we're heading for shitstorm. I mean, it's really bad. It's a really ugly civilization. It's not hard to see the ugliness of it. The corruption everywhere. Metaphorical, analogistic stories, should give a glimmer of the actual thing you're just debating. I just had a little tragic thought that, yeah, we really are turning into a third world country, and it really will be. There'll be the haves and the have-nots, and the haves will figure out how to annihilate, slaughter the have-nots who organize. So if they try to make a union, or they try to make a political force to fight, they'll probably get assassinated, and it's going to get that bad, and there'll be no way to recover America out of this slop. The moral majority will make sure that the evolutionists never speak another word, kind of thing. We're really heading there. found. You just find it. And you don't have any explanation. So you don't have any reason to believe. I don't mean that the moral majority is moral. So I mean, to me, the moral majority is a metaphor for the corrupt, grafting, thieving, the selfishest, cuntiest people on planet Earth. That's the moral majority. You have to be the most. You just have to be such a glutton and a selfish glutton to be a participant in the function of the moral majority. You can trespass because it's only logical to do it. Right, so there are reasons to trespass, as I pointed out last week's video. That you can, if you're on a rescue mission, but you have to be rescuing something more valuable than what you're risking. And if you can't do that, then you can't make the trespass. You have to be able to clean up the mess you make. If you can't clean up the mess, then you can't make the mess. So the only messes you can make are messes you can clean up, that somehow you can make it all right. And you can never make it all right that you tortured somebody, so you're out of luck, frankly. The consent argument is death to any justifications. So as long as you allow there to be the risk of forcing one non-consensual victim, it's already too high a price. A moment ago when I was thinking about the lottery, because you're not saving anybody, you're just putting things at risk. There's not a rescue mission here. And like, even if you won the lottery, like if I won the lottery 40 years ago, alright, so I was just pointing out that if I won it today, I'd be so much more aware of the fact that, well, I'd have to give most of the money back to the system, to the things that it took away. It took away putting your kid in somebody didn't buy a child safety seat because they spent the money on a lottery ticket. Somebody didn't feed their kid good enough food because they bought a lottery ticket. So all that shit happened, and I have to make sure that I was putting that back. I mean, because that's blood money. I mean, that's I can't take that money. I can't take the real needs that were compromised to buy lottery tickets. I can't take that money and feel like I'm entitled. And then the state took the other half and squandered it on jackass government employees who are just tyrants, and nothing else. Lazy, disgusting, putrid tyrants. Those are the rules of the game. You should know you don't want to play this game. It's the evolution game. Do you want to... Yeah, right. So how the fuck did somebody sign off on, well, it's okay, yeah, let's kill most of the kids in some brutal way, so we have a couple of happy ones dancing. So let's pay for the, the 2 or 3 little happy kids going, oh, isn't it fun to be a tyrant? For the few government employees that are happy and, totally exploiting and destroying civilization, yeah, it's okay, We'll tax people out of their house for that. Fuck. It's just such bullshit. Hex are, all the decisions I have to make. I don't have any interest in being put in this position. So I'm just pointing out how you can't deny the existence of these victims that you're creating, that you're dragging behind your funmobile, who never did consent to it, and it's just a fact, and you're just using them as fuel, in a sense. You're just grinding them up, pouring them in your gas tank as if they don't matter, and it's really rude. I just don't I don't know how everybody does that in a clear conscience. How you make somebody else pay for your fun. Anytime you're doing that, I don't know how you're doing it with it and feel good about it. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like some perfect, beautiful, perfect gift thing. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't come in that shape. So anyway, but that's what it all comes down to, is the idea that somebody thinks. No, they just say it. They say it. They don't really think it because they know better. So they just lie and pretend they're gift giving. When what they're really doing is taxing and stealing and thieving for their own gratification. That's all it is. Nothing more. Nothing nice or good about it. Nothing generous. It's all bad. It's all exploitation. So anyway, for a delusion, the delusion of the grandeur of your existence. You're such a grand machine. You're so fucking wonderful that shit should be tortured just so you can, smell your own farts. Because they're just so spectacular, so beautiful. Ugh. Ugh. Anyway, God, ugh, I just hate this planet. I hate fucking people. Can't stand it. Ugh. So repugnant. Alright, anyway. Hate being among you. I hate that my brain is, I have to keep doing this because there's no more important thing to do, than prevent my reoccurrence. To do what I can to minimize the number of people who will have to exist in the future going, why the fuck didn't they stop this? I mean, fuck. I have to do this all over again? Ugh, damn. Anyway, so, enough of a video. Until the next time and such. And so hopefully next time I'll be more on the consent argument. Maybe I'll try to get something done during the week. It's always something gets in my way. Plans are just, every day is some sort of, it's either I don't feel well enough or something this or something that or something, it's always something. Always. So anyway. But, 810 weeks. It's a lot of weeks. The pain. Anyway, till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot.